It's Tristar time today. We're going to go through this aircraft. And if you think this is going to be a regular formal tutorial, I'm sorry to say, but you are gravely mistaken. In this tutorial, you're not just going to learn a surface level introduction to this aircraft. I'm going to take you through the aircraft on a small flight. But at the same time, I'm going to expose you to systems knowledge of the aircraft so that you can understand how the actual aircraft behaves. And I'm not telling you to read books, okay, or look at notes. That's the worst way of going about it. The problem is, when I look for a YouTube video to learn a new aircraft, I'm often confronted with several choices, some of which, to learn an aircraft, you have to see like 10 parts, 10 episodes if you like. And I don't know about you, but my attention quickly transitions from run to cutoff whenever there's something more than 3 episodes at best. Also, there are other episodes you find which are way too formal and way too fast also, like live streams and stuff. Those are okay, but at the same time, I don't feel like I've actually learned anything. I feel like I've seen someone else do it, and they clearly know what they're doing. But at the same time, none of that stuff has transitioned over to me, which only makes me feel disappointed. So in this video, we're going to go through stuff, common sense, and believe me when I tell you, I haven't read a single note or any document regarding this plane. So, what we do first is we come to the flight engineer's station. Typically on these kind of aircraft, the flight engineer would be the one to power the aircraft. So let's toggle the menu and put external power on. Knowing that the Tristar follows a cold and dark kind of layout, what that basically means is that if a switch is off, like, it's generally like in the normal position, but stuff like this can draw your attention. So that's how you know. So let's first put the battery on. That's already on, it seems. Put the external power on. Systems come to life. You might ask, how do I know systems come to life? Because I can check over here. I can move this selector to external power and it gives me the frequency and the voltage of the external power. So I know there's external power as confirmed by this light over there. And also general lighting up of systems. It's always good to observe that. The first thing I'm going to do is turn lights on. If anyone has flown the 747 Classic or even the Concorde, the lights, the position of the lights is quite similar. It's down over here. Now do stuff that makes sense to you, common sense, okay? Don't look at notes and checklists and, oh, this doesn't come first, so I'll only do it later. So while we are here, there's an enunciate a light test button. Let's press that and check that all the lights work, which they do. So that's good. And one thing, if anyone is taking notes, please chuck them away. Because there's one thing about me, I don't like taking notes. The reason being is because you lose physical connection with the aircraft. I only realized this later, but a lot of people, actually pilots, they use cockpit flows. There's no such checklist that goes through everything step by step. First you must do this, then you must do that. There's cockpit flows where you check everything systematically and then you back up anything major with a checklist. Okay, so moving on, having established power to the aircraft, it's about time we let people on the ground know that we are powered up. So we'll put the position lights on. And let's put the anti-collision lights on as well. Let's check everything. So let's start with the overhead panel. check everything's okay. Anti-skid, we can't really turn that on at the moment because the parking brake is engaged. All this is okay. If something is dark, it means it's okay. So like here, if it's bright, it means it's off. So yeah. Then you come down. Let's put some lights on because I cannot tolerate such a dark cockpit. And if also another piece of advice, if anything is in the norm position, short form for normal, keep it in there. Okay, override means that you've overridden it. Okay, so that's not general. That's like for emergencies. Emergency lights are unarmed as spoken over here. We can turn those on like so. Put the logo light on as well if it has any. Standby power is armed, so that's good. Come down over here, these all off, these are fine. The windshield heat, notice these lights are on, so that means we need to extinguish them. Anti-ice is all okay. Let's put the no smoking sign on. Until fueling has been done, we shouldn't really put the seatbelt sign on. So let's put the lights on even more. And we come over here. We want everything bright. And there's even a dome light also. I'll put that on. That's great. The master radio switch, it's in dark, so that means it's on. To illustrate my point, there we go. And let's do the other annunciator light test, which is also here. That one. Checking that lights are operational and that no filaments is burnt out. We know what happened with Eastern Airlines Flight 401 with the landing gear. Okay, so that's the overhead panel checked. We'll come over here, turn some more lights on. As you can see, there's nothing really technical that I've done at all at the moment. Now the INSs. We're going to enter our route today. So I'm going to open that. I'm going to first turn the INS to standby, as so. The aircraft has a nice shortcut. If I press remote, I can enter the present position on both of them. In the real world, you'd have to enter the present position manually on both, because remote won't do that for you. And then you can press remote and enter your position. Okay, so present position is... We are flying from Ahmedabad Airport today, and the present position is north 23043, insert, east 072376, insert. Okay, now we can align this. So the parking brake is set because that'll mess up our alignment. And we can turn this then to align. As so. Now we can do our waypoint. So waypoint 1 is we are flying from, we're doing the Bravo Victor Romeo 1 Alpha SID. So the first waypoint is Alpha Hotel 373, and that's coincides with runway heading as well. So let's add that in. Feel free to skip this part if you don't want to see me messing around with coordinates, but if anyone is interested in INS or as a beginner, then do stay around. So north 2256 0, insert, east 07228.8, insert. That's waypoint 1. Waypoint 2 is the BVR Bravo Victor Romeo VOR called Bhavnagar, and that is north 2145. 1 insert, and east 072 114 insert, and the VOR station is 114.10. So let's put that in, because what we normally do is we fly VOR to VOR initially, radio navigation, and then we follow the INS. That's generally good practice. Okay, waypoint 3. Bravo Oscar Foxtrot India November. North 2042 7 insert, east 072275. Insert. Waypoint 4 is I'm just skipping a few waypoints. Waypoint 4 is this one? Where is it? There we go. North 19130. Insert. East 072362. 072362. Insert. Waypoint 5 is Echo Mike Romeo Oscar Sierra. North 19127. 19127. Insert. East 073086. 073086. Insert. And finally waypoint 6, which is Oscar Lima Golf Uniform Sierra. North 19129. Insert. East 073284. 073284. Insert. You can see the ready nav light has come on. So before we turn them to nav, let's check our loading once again, because if you make any mistakes, they can go to somewhere else, which is not desirable. Right then, present position from the book. North 23043. East 072376. Waypoint 1. North 22560. East 072288. Waypoint 2. Bhavnagar VOR. North 21451. East 072114. Waypoint 3. North 20427. East 072275. Waypoint 4. North 19130. East 072362. And finally waypoint 5. North 19127. East 073086. And finally waypoint 6. North 19129. East 07328-4. Okay, the loading is checked. Down to 0, ready for nav. We rotate both of them to nav. The ready nav lights are out. Loading check, nav mode mix. And we can put that away. So with that out of the way, there isn't really much left to do. So we check the overhead. I'll set the Bhavnagar VOR frequency on my side as well. 114.10. Can come down over here and check our heading. We're departing off runway 23, and I believe our heading is somewhere around 230. There we go. And I guess we can set the course to 230 as well. Our cruising altitude is 33,000 feet. So I'll set that. We're just gonna climb direct. Now if I want to arm it, nothing happened. The reason for that is you have to turn on the flight directors first. There we go. And I can put myself on heading select if I want as well. So with that checked, come down over here. Check our altitude reporting is on. We're on mode A. I don't think there's any mode C. I'm not really flying on VATSIM or anything like that. You can just put this to uniform frequency. 122.80. The weather radar, the tilt I can put down slightly. And I can even turn it on if I wanted to. There we go. Everything else seems okay. So pretty much you checked all the side. I can even put the no seatbelt sign on. Assuming that fueling is done. Now we can come over to the flight engineer station. And this is where I'm going to explain to you stuff that you probably won't see in other videos. The thing is, when I first looked at this, I was confused, naturally. And I looked around for many videos on this particular add-on and couldn't really find anything. Either people didn't know what they were doing, or they knew too well what they were doing, but didn't bother to convey it to the viewer, which was sad. And also there's documentation that comes with this add-on, but the moment I read page 1 itself, my attention span just clicked out. So I then finally found a video by Just Planes, which filmed the actual Tristar. I forget which airline it was, but I'll put the link in the description. The actual Lockheed Tristar in flight. And the flight engineer, he said, I'll explain to you just a few features on board. He didn't even go into too much detail, and that's when I realized that it's not about how fancifully you explain yourself. It's about how simply you can put it to an audience. I wasn't even watching the video on volume. I was looking at it on subtitles because I was in a location at the time. And I still understood. He took his small little pen and he masterfully went through a couple of things. And that was more than enough to get me going. And that video for me was like a game changer. So I hope this will be a game changer for you. So firstly, we don't need all these fuel pumps on. Okay, so we'll turn them off. I want to explain a bit about the hydraulics. These four up here, let's say fluid level, these are reservoirs where the hydraulic fuel is stored. And down here is the pressure. Well, obviously there's no pressure at the moment. Now one thing that may seem unusual is there are 3 engines, but there's 4 hydraulic systems. And you're absolutely right. There are 4 hydraulic systems And that was something I only discovered like last week. Now, there are a couple of ways to get this powered on the ground. And also the engine bleed control is like all your air conditioning. The reason why they're next to each other is because they share a relationship. So, how is that possible? So let's first explain this. Okay, I'm back. Slight interruption there. Keep going. These over here, these guarded switches, these are engine-driven pumps. And they even tell you which engine it is. If you don't believe me, it's engine 1, engine 2, and engine 3. And you might ask, how do I know that? Because they're not on. And believe me, I will test this again and show it to you when we are in cruise, when the engines are on, so that you can confirm for yourself. There's also 2 air-driven pumps over here. And you might ask, what are air-driven pumps? Now, air-driven pumps are supplied by anything that gives air, which are the engines or the APU. If you don't believe me, we'll come down over here to the APU control and start it. So, like in the Airbus, you first turn the master power on, and then you start the APU. See over here it says doors in transit. You don't even have to turn on any fuel pumps to start the APU. There we go. It's telling you please don't load me at the moment. I'm not yet spooled up. I can even check the APU over here if I wanted to. The frequency and the volts. And we can see that it is spooled up. Actually, the frequency should be 115 hertz and the volts should be 400 volts. Maybe they got this slightly wrong, I'm not sure. So the APU is on. I noticed that the APU has already come online, it's closed. This. But it's not actually doing anything because the external power still takes precedence. So we got to release the external power. And there we go. The APU is now powering the aircraft. We can turn this off. It's no longer needed. So now we've got APU. We can put APU air on as well. So there we go. We'll open that switch. And notice now the relationship shared. If I put these 2 air-driven pumps off, like so, notice that the packs are suddenly coming on. The left one, the center, the right, and the cross blades. And now there's cabin pack flow. And you can check it also. All 3 of them. So these 2 here, they share a relationship. If you turn this on auto, it'll automatically turn these off. Clearly there's not enough air to drive both. Now if I turn these 2 on, like so, there's still not enough air, it seems, to drive the air-driven pumps. Well, it might be actually, but not very much. It says low pressure, as you can see. So unlike at the 747, we can come to the conclusion that you can't actually power this with APU air. But it does seem that the packs are still coming on. So if I turn them off, there's still no air coming over here. Oh, actually, okay, this on auto. So either one can be powered or the other, but not both. So that's interesting. also this keeps coming on as well. Anyway, what else is there? High pressure air. So obviously this is air being bled from the engine. So say the engine was giving out smoke or something was broken. You don't want that smoky air to come and enter your cabin. So you can just put it off. Like that. Or even over here, isolation valves. Put them off. So that's very interesting to know. Also we have what is called our PTU, Power Transfer Unit. So there are two AC pumps over. So let's put these off first. Get cabin packs, like so. In fact, we don't even need that, because we got two AC driven pumps. So if we didn't have air driven pumps, but say the engines failed, but we did have AC power because the APU was on, what we can do is turn the AC pumps on, like that, and we've got power, and then we can turn the PTUs on, and now we've got a decent amount of hydraulic pressure to all four of them. Of course it's not ideal, it's not 3000 psi, but you still got something. So if we go to the outside now, we can see that control surfaces can move. See, the rudder is moving, speed brakes are moving. So even with no air supply at all and no engine supply, because the engines are off, we can still power the center ones with alternating current and then turn the PTUs on. And this is what the flight engineer explained in that video I was talking to you about. But he said that these are so reliable, these engine ones, that he's never actually seen these PTUs being used at all. You can even have the ram air turbine. So if there's no engine power, there's no alternating current, then you can put the rat on and then put the PTU on and then get hydraulic to the left hand side at least. So that's interesting. Anyway, so now doing our flows that we did with the overhead panel, we'll start over here. We'll test all the fire detection stuff. Test system A and the system B. That's successful. We'll test these three. Can test these also. Wheel well fire test. Lots of fire tests on this aircraft. There's even a annunciator test, oral test. There we go. Now coming down over here. These are your packs, and you can tell that there's some flow, and there's obviously flow as seen by this indicator. Now there's cross bleeds also, which tells me that potentially we can start engine 3 and then start 1 and 2 together because of cross bleed, and that's something I'm eager to test out. This is obviously cabin temperature. We can put this a bit colder if we want, because India is very hot. Coming down over here, so these are our engine generators, and when the engines come online, these will close, this will come off, and then the engines will manage everything. Similarly down here with the fuel system, we can do a quantity test also, which is fine. Very logical again. There is 5 tanks, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, no, there's no center one. This is just the total. Now you have 2 main tanks and 2 external, I mean, like close to the wing, as per the diagram, okay. I'm not referencing any of the notes. This is from basically what I can make out over here. Now there's 2 pumps per tank for redundancy. That's also common sense. So now we've got more in these, so what I like to do is turn these on, and then when these equal these, then just turn all 4 on. But I suspect that these two will gravity feed anyway. Fuel will still come down by gravity. We can even check the tank temperatures if we want. Another thing is cross flow. So if there was, say, an uneven amount over here, these two didn't match, we could turn the cross feeds on like so. But I think they're all okay. Also, another thing is these. You might ask, what are these? I think these direct fuel straight to the engine, and they're guarded, which obviously has an implication that if you turn this off in flight, your engine will immediately shut down. Now you might ask, how do I know that? It's because I've tried it. And the engine spooled down, as I can see over here. And then that gave me the added opportunity to know how to start your engine in flight. And how did that happen? It's a bonus, really. So you turn that off, you realize that don't do it again. But you then realize how to turn your engine on mid-flight. So there's a windmill start option as well. So that's what you would use when you are in flight. So that's quite interesting. So I'm encouraging you to experiment with your aircraft. Don't look at notes and don't be afraid to touch any of these items. It's only through trial and error that you'll really be able to know how your Tristar operates. And I'm sure by the end of this video, when eventually a Tristar does come out for Microsoft Flight Simulator, my viewers will be some of the first to live stream the Tristar on Microsoft Flight Simulator. Not because they read notes. All the other brother and sister simmers will be reading notes and the manual, the AnyBuilds manual. But viewers of my video will just hop straight into the Tristar, apply common sense, and get it started. So that's all good. We can even test these, like the vibration sensors and all that kind of stuff. That's good. This is all your fuel jettison stuff. We don't want to touch that unless we really want to dump fuel. Now we must set our cabin altitude, which is 33,000 feet, and I'm not really running weather, so we'll just keep that as the same. Humidity, do we want humidity? You can put that on if you want. Passenger oxygen is masks deployed. Oh my. I think I just popped out the masks. It'd be interesting to go in the cabin and see that. Anyway, I guess that was something I shouldn't have touched. It doesn't really matter, really. I'm not going into the cabin. Movie interrupt switch. I wonder if this is like to stop your movie and put a charity event on or something. You know, like British Airways, you're seeing a movie and suddenly they'll stop it and say, now watch this. Now this fire push to reset was because we did that fire test over there, just in case anyone got frightened. Okay, so that's all the checks done. Another thing I like to check is this. It should be in normal, otherwise we won't get any DME updates. See, if I put it on standby, these red flags come there, so put them in normal, they should open up eventually. We can blank out the decision height. That's something we do for landing only. Test these. Anything that basically can push, you can test. And that's it. Enough messing around. So let's start up our engines. We'll put the strobe on. And yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it. There's nothing else. External power we've already gotten rid of. Our INSs are set. So let's start the engines. So we'll come over here and we'll put our inner boost pumps on as so. Got to put the packs off as well. So we'll come all the way down here. This is the total pressure available for start. So if we put these off, you can see it rising now. And these air-driven hydraulics are off so that there's no chance of any air being used to drive these. We still don't have enough for engine start. 20 psi, we need 30. So we need to think, what is taking up resources? Strange how we're not rising beyond 20 psi. We need 30. Okay, those don't do anything. Let's try it anyway. So throttles are idle. Let's put the fuel switches are not at cutoff. That's unusual. Now let's check. Still at 20 psi. That is unusual. Anyway, let's try and start engine number 3. Ground start. We are spooling up to 20%. And let's introduce the fuel. There we go. Now if we come over here, you can see that engine number 4, hydraulic system number 4 has come alive. And now the pressure has also increased and is continuing to increase. So it suggests that because of cross bleed we can start the other two. Let's try for one moment. So this is on. If I close this, see it goes off. So now we know that these are indeed engine driven pumps. So let's start engines number 2 and number 1. And we can even push back also. There we are, rising to 20% N2. So I was right. We can start 2 engines together once we have enough air bleed from the APU and 1 engine. Okay, we'll stop the pushback. So now the engines are running, the ignition has gone off, the anti-skid. Yeah, that's okay. Now we can come over here. Now that all engines are on and they're running, see the hydraulics. So all we can do is we can turn these off if you want. Notice how the hydraulic pressure went out. And if we turn the PTUs on, see how they get re-established again. So there's plenty of redundancy in this aircraft. As so. Now the packs, we can put these on auto. And we can turn these packs on as well. Like so. This seems to be like trim air, I think. Hot air. It could be like trim air on other aircraft. So let's connect all these. and it could even be recirculating fan also, if I'm not mistaken. So that's all good. And we can even check cabin temperature if we wanted to. Anyway, so that's all checked. Notice the engine generators have also come on their own. So they've already been armed, that is to say. So now if we trip this, now they've come on. They're taking charge. We don't need the APU anymore, so we can turn off the APU air and press this big stop button over here. There we go. The APU is powering down. Remember, we were on APU over here, so that's gone. We can check our engine generators to see that they are supplying, and they are. We'll keep the master power switch on and let it cool down. So that's all okay. We can extend some flaps. I like the sound of these flaps. It sounds like the 777. Now what are these other two warnings over here? Get out. There we go. Now there's a nice feature I installed, is this. So it's telling us our optimum EPR is 1.504. Okay, that's fine. And our V1 is 117, rotate 118, 142. And it's automatically set up over here V2 plus 15. So that's the initial pitch we'll maintain. We'll pitch to maintain V2 plus 15. Speed brakes are
deployed.
Are retracted. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me just check my aileron trim. I don't know why it's gone full right. So that caused problems for me on takeoff. There we go. So that's where we can start our taxi. Put the landing lights with the taxi lights on. And of course, I took the time to explain to you some systems, but in less than an hour, I mean, I'm sure you could even do it in 15 minutes. You can get going, start up from cold and dark. In contrast to watching like 3 episodes. By episode 3, like, you've come to this point, so yeah.
Barometer set.
Also, what's interesting is the flight mode annunciator. It tells you heading select, altitude select is engaged. We can even test these if we wanted to. There we go. Moving quite slowly. See, the anti-skid has already come on. We can monitor our ground speed if we wanted to. Oh, that we're 2 knots, which is a bit too slow. We're going to be quite lightly loaded, so I'm not going to use the whole runway. Stab trim 5.7. There we go. That's all set. I could actually use the whole runway if I want to. Let's put the clock on. Put the landing lights on as well. Runway turn off. Can alert the cabin crew that we're ready for takeoff by cycling the no smoking. Yeah, actually I think we're going to need the whole runway. It doesn't look like we can just do it, that little portion. So I'll go to the end and turn around. So let's have a takeoff briefing. Upon takeoff rotation, I'm going to rotate and pitch to maintain V2 plus 10. On having intercepted V2 plus 10, I will engage IAS hold over here, and the flight directors will then command a pitch of V2 plus 10. At my acceleration height and my thrust reduction height, which I'm going to call at 1500 feet AGL, I'm going to pull the thrust levers back slightly, and then at 3000 feet, I'm going to switch to another mode, maybe vertical speed, and bring my nose down so that I can accelerate and retract flaps. Once we reach 250 knots, I'll again engage IAS hold and climb out on the optimum engine pressure ratio for climb. Of course, having passed 10,000 feet, same thing again, we'll lower the nose slightly, gain speed and reach our optimum climb speed. And then after that, press IAS hold once again, and then climb out to 33,000 feet at our calculated optimum climb speed. Now another thing is we're going to maintain runway heading, and once we've reached waypoint 1, I'll then turn to intercept the Bhavnagar VOR. And I'll do that on radio navigation, and after I've intercepted the VOR, then I will switch to INS and let the INS then do the route for us. A little bit of wingtip flash. Now I'm going to swing myself out. Wow, that Airbus took off quite fast. Okay. Just want to check that my aileron trim is set at 0. I don't know why it keeps moving. Full power. Airspeed building. 100 knots.
80 knots.
Oh, there we go, 100 knots.
V1 rotate. Positive rate. V2 plus 15.
Select IS hold.
Gear is up.
I'll only turn to it after reaching our first waypoint, which is 3.5 minutes. Okay, we reached our acceleration point. We pitch down. And we're going to accelerate. Retract our flaps. The landing lights off. So track the flaps. Okay, reaching 250 knots, IAS hold, and we're going to pitch to maintain 250 knots. We've deviated slightly from our runway heading, so I'll just track that. Wow, 10,000 feet, that was fast. Let's come off IAS hold. Let's pitch down to capture our speed. Okay, let's make our turn to the VOR. So set course. Let's match the heading. Once again, IS hold. Turn the seatbelt sign off as well. There we are, we're coming up on our heading. Let's engage the autopilot.
Auto flight.
There we go. Now what's our optimum EPR? 1.503. So let's change that. There we go. Wow, so quite a good rate of climb. 5,000 feet per minute. Nice. So now what if we want to fly, let the INS take control? So what we can do is set this to FMS. And that actually commands a heading for the INS to follow. So therefore you must be in heading select if you want to avail of the INS taking precedence. Now that seemed quite contrary to me, at least, because I used to be flying on nav on most aircraft. Nav means LNAV. But in this case, if you had to press nav, actually means VOR lock. And so it'll turn me back to the VOR. So I don't want that. So we want heading select. And notice how this heading is automatically changing. So this is the heading we must follow to follow the path on the INS. So that's the mode you should be on. It doesn't actually change your course deviation indicator, unfortunately. And you can't really do DME updating on this add-on as well. So we got a very good rate of climb, and it's very good. So now our optimum climb speed is, what is it? When you reach cruise, then let's switch to Mach hold or maybe altitude hold and put the auto throttle on and match that speed. You can do that as well. I don't think Mach hold works on this add-on. So the gears up, the flaps are up, put the landing lights off, now the seatbelt signs are also gone off, and we can check over here. We can check our fuel, check our generators if we really wanted to. The APU is probably cooled down, so we'll put the master power off. And we can check that cabin is pressurizing, which it is. We can check the hydraulics, they're all doing good. So now if I turn this off, that's gone off. In fact, let's turn all these off. Let's be creative. But did you see what happened? The air-driven pumps, which were on auto, they have kicked in. So when I turned those off, the air-driven pumps kicked on. I can put those off as well. And now those are coming down. And now it's telling me that I can put the rat on. That's coming. It's given me that option, which I don't want, obviously. Let's put those on auto. Notice that when the air-driven pumps on, suddenly these came on, N1 press. So that tells me that this has something to do with getting air to the air-driven hydraulics. It's taking it directly from here. I can even put the PTUs on and power all of them. So there's many different ways in doing this, but obviously if you have the engines on, you would put those on. And I'm just letting you see what the options are, giving you a chance to explore how safe this aircraft actually is. It's very redundant. And there's even AC driven pumps as well, so if you didn't have any engines, you didn't have air, but you had an alternating current source, either through the VAT or through the APU, you could put your AC pumps on, like so, and then put your PTUs on, and you still have pressure. Auto, so they're not running all the time, but which tells me they only run during like very intensive tasks like gear retraction, that kind of stuff. So we are following our path. rack deployed. That's weird, it says rack deployed, but there's no animation. So using IAS hold, we've automatically come to 32,100 feet, and the rate of climb has become very slow. And what I think is that as we burn more fuel, we will get lighter and eventually get to that altitude. Still got quite a lot of flight left, so I'm going to have to end the video now shortly. I hope you've enjoyed this little trip, getting the Tristar started up, and I hope you've seen that it's all common sense, really. And also, if you know one aircraft like this, you can automatically go to another wide body of this generation, like the DC-10 or the 747 Classic. It might surprise you when I say that I actually feel more confident flying the 747 Classic than I do flying the 747-400, which is interesting, really. It might surprise a lot of you. So it really is common sense, and I hope you haven't taken any notes. I'll encourage you to throw them out. It's really common sense. Just follow the cockpit flows in a systematic way. Start top down like this, then come down here, scan the autopilot, AFCS, test all this, set your radios, come down here, test your hydraulics, test your cabin pressure, your fuel, your electrics, set your altitude, and then to start the engines is a very simple, straightforward procedure. One more thing I want to demonstrate before I go is if I turn this off, like that. Look, the engine is automatically spooled down. It's dead. And notice the generators also have tripped off, and now these two are taking the load. So now that gives us an opportunity to restart the aircraft. And notice, being on IAS hold, the aircraft is also automatically descending. So what we do is put that throttle on idle, put the fuel off, and now windmills start. It's already spooling back to life. Introduce the fuel. There we go. The engine is back online. And notice the generator would have kicked on. It has. That's good. And let's bring it back. And notice the aircraft will now stop its descent and it'll start pitching up to maintain the speed that we set it at. So that's episode 1 of my lesson learned series of the Lockheed Tristar. I now declare you as a graduate of the Lockheed Tristar by the power invested in me as your flight instructor. And I'm pretty sure that when the Ini-builds Tristar comes out eventually, if it ever does, or maybe another one, that whoever's watched this video will know exactly how to operate the Lockheed Tristar, using common sense and having in-depth systems knowledge of the Tristar as well, along with the initiative to try out new things on this aircraft, try out the systems, how it works, simulate failures, and do all that kind of stuff. And while your other simmers that follow notes, checklists to the word, they'll have to be reading the INI-Builds manual. Whoever's watched this video, I'm sure, will just get straight into the Tristar. Okay then.